What if the secrets of Earth's deepest, darkest places held the key to your most peaceful sleep? Imagine drifting off not to a gentle stream, but to the silent ballet of bioluminescent wonders and the ancient lullabies of sunken giants. Prepare to have your perception of tranquility transformed as we journey to the uncharted depths. Tonight, we invite you to release the weight of the world above and descend with us into the embrace of the deep ocean. This is not a place of fear, but of profound peace. Here, in Earth's final frontier, the silence is not empty but full of wonder. The darkness is not threatening but comforting, like the softest blanket drawn over weary eyes. Let yourself sink gently into your pillow as we begin our descent together. Feel the tension in your shoulders dissolve like salt in water. Each breath you take is slower now, deeper, matching the rhythm of the ancient currents that have flowed through these depths for millions of years. We are aboard an invisible vessel, moving without effort through waters that few humans have ever witnessed. The sunlight that warmed the surface begins to fade above us, filtering through the water in shafts of diminishing blue and green. With each meter we descend, the world becomes quieter, simpler, more serene. At 200 meters down, we pass through the edge of the twilight zone, where the last traces of sunlight perform their final dance. The water here holds a luminous quality, a deep sapphire glow that seems to emanate from nowhere and everywhere at once. This is the realm where day surrenders to eternal night, and where the true mysteries of the ocean begin to reveal themselves. Your breathing has slowed now, perhaps without you even noticing. This is natural here in the deep. Time moves differently beneath the waves. A minute might stretch into an hour, or compress into a single, perfect moment of stillness. There is no rush in these waters. No deadlines, no demands, no urgent messages requiring your attention. As we continue our gentle descent, consider how the ocean holds within itself nearly 70% of our planet's surface. Yet more than 80% of this vast realm remains unexplored, unmapped, unseen by human eyes. We are travelers in a world more mysterious than any distant planet, more alien than the surface of Mars, yet it exists right here on our own Earth. At 400 meters, we are now deeper than most sunlight can penetrate. The pressure here is 40 times greater than at the surface, yet we are safe, suspended in this liquid universe, drifting downward like a falling leaf in autumn air. The marine snow drifts past our vessel, tiny particles of organic matter descending through the water column in an endless, gentle cascade. Each flake of this marine snow is a story, a fragment of life from the sunlit waters above, making its slow journey to feed the creatures of the abyss. Some of these particles will take weeks to reach the ocean floor, tumbling and turning in the imperceptible currents, nourishing the vast ecosystem that thrives in perpetual darkness. Let your thoughts drift like this marine snow, releasing each one as it comes, watching it float away into the peaceful darkness. You need not hold on to anything here. In the deep ocean, we practice the art of letting go. Worries, tensions, the accumulated weight of the day, all of it can drift down and away, settling somewhere far below, where it can no longer disturb your rest. At 700 meters, we have entered what oceanographers call the midnight zone. Here, absolute darkness reigns, broken only by the lights of our descent and by something far more magical, the living light of creatures who have mastered the art of bioluminescence. In this realm of perpetual night, life has discovered its own light. More than 90% of the creatures living at these depths possess the ability to create their own illumination, transforming the darkness into a living canvas of soft, ethereal glows. These are not harsh lights, but gentle pulses and waves of blue and green luminescence that drift through the water like aquatic fireflies. As we descend past 1,000 meters, you might notice the occasional sparkle in the distance, a jellyfish perhaps, trailing tentacles adorned with points of light, or a small fish bearing photophores along its body like tiny stars. Each flash serves a purpose: communication, attraction, defense, but to us, they are simply beautiful, nature's own meditation lights guiding us deeper into tranquility. Your eyelids are growing heavier now, and this is good. Let them close if they wish. You can still see everything in your mind's eye, perhaps more clearly than before. The deep ocean exists as much in imagination as in reality, a dreamscape that welcomes you with open arms. At 1,500 meters, we encounter our first jellyfish of the deep, a creature of extraordinary delicacy. Its bell pulses with a slow, hypnotic rhythm, expanding and contracting like a breathing lung, like your own chest rising and falling in peaceful slumber. The edges of its body glow with a soft blue light, and its tentacles, some extending many meters below, drift in the gentle current like silk ribbons in a breeze. This jellyfish has no brain, no complex thoughts, no worries about tomorrow. It simply exists, moving through the water with pure, instinctive grace. There is something profoundly peaceful about such simplicity. Perhaps, just for tonight, we too can release our need to think, to plan, to analyze, and simply be, drifting through our dreams as effortlessly as this creature drifts through its liquid sky. The pressure at this depth is immense, over 150 times the pressure at sea level, yet life not only survives here but flourishes. These creatures have adapted perfectly to their environment, just as you are adapting now to this journey, sinking deeper into comfort with each passing moment. At 2,000 meters, we are now in the bathypelagic zone, the true midnight realm. The temperature here hovers just above freezing, a constant cold that has remained unchanged for countless millennia. But in this cold, there is no discomfort, only stillness, only the preservation of ancient peace. A ctenophore drifts into view, its body nearly transparent except for the 8 rows of cilia that run along its length. These tiny hair-like structures beat in waves, creating ripples of rainbow light through bioluminescence and refraction. The colors shift and flow, violet to blue to green, a light show created not for our entertainment but simply as a consequence of existence, beauty for beauty's sake. Your body has grown so heavy now, sinking into your bed as we sink through these waters. Every muscle has released its tension. Your jaw is loose, your hands are open, your breathing barely perceptible. You are becoming part of the ocean itself, weightless, borderless, infinite. As we pass 2,500 meters, the marine snow continues its eternal descent around us. Scientists have discovered that this constant rain of organic material supports entire ecosystems in the deep. Nothing is wasted here. Every fragment finds its purpose, every particle becomes part of the cycle of life. Even in the darkest, most remote places, connection exists, continuation exists, meaning exists. Something larger moves in the distance, just beyond our lights. Perhaps a squid, its body streamlined and elegant, or a deep-sea fish with enormous eyes adapted to capture every photon of light. We cannot see it clearly, and that is part of the magic. The deep ocean holds its secrets gently, revealing only glimpses, inviting wonder rather than demanding understanding. This is the art of letting go, of being comfortable with mystery, of finding peace not in knowing everything but in accepting that some things remain beautifully, peacefully unknown. As you drift towards sleep, you need not understand everything about your day, your life, your dreams. You need only trust in the journey, in the descent, in the gentle darkness that holds you safely. At 3,000 meters beneath the surface, we have entered a realm that remains as mysterious to modern science as the surface of distant moons. Down here, the weight of the ocean above us is staggering, nearly 300 times the atmospheric pressure you feel in your bed. Yet within this pressure, within this darkness, life has found not merely survival but extraordinary beauty. A siphonophore drifts past our vessel, its body stretching perhaps 30 meters through the water, making it one of the longest creatures on Earth. But despite its length, it moves with perfect grace, each segment of its colonial body working in harmony, pulsing with soft bioluminescent light that travels along its length like a gentle wave. Watch this wave in your mind, let it become the rhythm of your breathing, in and out, slow and steady, peaceful and eternal. Your consciousness is drifting now between waking and sleeping, that beautiful threshold where the boundaries blur and dissolve. This is the twilight of the mind, as peaceful as the twilight zone of the ocean we passed through earlier. There is no need to hold on to awareness. Let yourself slip beneath the surface of sleep as naturally as a stone sinks through water. At 3,500 meters, we approach the edge of the abyssal zone, the true abyss that covers more than half of Earth's surface. The word abyss often carries connotations of fear, but here, now, it means only depth, only peace, only the vast embrace of something greater than ourselves. The abyss is not empty but full, teeming with life that has adapted to thrive in conditions we once thought impossible. A anglerfish appears in the darkness, its modified dorsal spine extending forward with a glowing lure that dangles before its mouth. This ancient hunter barely moves, conserving energy in an environment where food is scarce and every calorie precious. It simply waits, suspended in the water column, patient as stone, as timeless as the ocean itself. There is wisdom in this stillness, in this patient waiting. Perhaps our own rest can learn from this deep-sea meditation. The bioluminescent lure pulses gently, mimicking the light of smaller prey organisms, but to our eyes it appears simply as a soft, hypnotic glow, a night light in the deepest darkness. Let this light guide you deeper into your own rest, a beacon not of waking but of peaceful surrender to sleep. At 4,000 meters, we pause in our descent to simply observe. All around us, in every direction, bioluminescent creatures create fleeting constellations in the water. A flash here as a small crustacean startles and releases a cloud of luminescent chemicals. A steady glow there as a jellyfish propels itself through the darkness. A brief streak as something we cannot identify moves swiftly past. This is the Milky Way of the ocean, a galaxy of living lights suspended in liquid space. Ancient sailors navigated by the stars above. Down here, life navigates by the stars within the water itself, each creature a point of light in the vast, dark tapestry. You too are a light, a consciousness flickering peacefully as it prepares to rest, to dream, to recharge its energy for tomorrow's journey. The temperature here remains just above freezing at 2 degrees Celsius, a constant cold that has persisted for millions of years. But this cold is not harsh. It is the cold of preservation, of stillness, of a world moving so slowly that time itself seems suspended. In this cold, creatures live for decades, some for centuries, their metabolism so slow that life unfolds like a meditation. A giant isopod crawls along an invisible surface below us, its armored body moving with deliberate slowness. This creature, resembling an enormous pill bug, can grow to over 40 centimeters long, a giant among its shallow water cousins. It moves as if through honey, each step considered, each movement purposeful and calm. There is no hurry here, no racing thoughts, no anxious rushing from one moment to the next. Your own thoughts have slowed to match this pace. Ideas that earlier might have raced through your mind now drift by like clouds across a summer sky, distant and unthreatening. You observe them without attachment, without needing to grasp or analyze. This is the gift of the deep ocean, the permission to simply be, without judgment, without effort, without anything but peaceful existence. At 4,500 meters, we notice the marine snow has thickened slightly, more particles drifting down through our lights. Some of these fragments are large enough to see individual components, the shell of a tiny plankton, a fiber of plant material, a cluster of bacteria working to break down organic matter. This endless rain nourishes the deep, connecting the sunlit surface world with this realm of eternal night. At 5,000 meters, we begin to sense the presence of the ocean floor below us, though we cannot yet see it. The abyssal plain awaits, a vast underwater desert that stretches for thousands of kilometers in every direction, flat and seemingly empty, yet hosting communities of life uniquely adapted to exist at the very bottom of the world. The pressure here is almost incomprehensible, over 500 times the pressure at the surface. Yet your body feels no pressure at all, only the gentle weight of blankets, the soft support of your mattress. You are held perfectly, suspended between the waking world and the world of dreams, and both worlds welcome you with equal tenderness. As our vessel finally approaches the seafloor, our lights illuminate a landscape unlike any other on Earth. The abyssal plain is covered in fine sediment, accumulated over millions of years, layer upon layer of marine snow compressed into a soft, muddy surface. This is Earth's largest habitat, covering more area than all the continents combined, yet it remains one of the least understood. The sediment here is not lifeless but teeming with microscopic organisms, bacteria and archaea that process the organic matter raining down from above. They work in silence, in darkness, in cold, performing the essential task of recycling nutrients, of maintaining the balance of the ocean's chemistry. Even here, at the bottom of everything, purpose exists, quiet work continues, the cycle of life persists. A sea cucumber moves slowly across the seafloor, leaving a trail in the sediment like a path through fresh snow. These creatures are the vacuum cleaners of the abyss, consuming sediment and extracting whatever nutrition they can find, then depositing the processed material back onto the seafloor. They move perhaps a few centimeters per hour, living their entire lives in slow motion, in perfect contentment with their pace. Watch this sea cucumber in your mind's eye, its soft body undulating gently as it inches forward. Let its pace become your pace. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to accomplish. Like this creature, you need only exist, only be present in this moment, which is all any moment ever requires of us. At 5,500 meters, we notice occasional mounds in the sediment, small hills created by the burrowing activities of worms and other invertebrates living within the seafloor itself. These creatures spend their entire lives in darkness, in cold, moving through sediment the way earthworms move through garden soil, aerating, processing, transforming. There is something profoundly peaceful about imagining life in such simplicity. No complex decisions to make, no screens to check, no voices demanding attention. Only the soft resistance of sediment, the gentle current of cold water, the timeless rhythm of existence reduced to its most essential elements. Perhaps this is what your mind seeks in sleep, this return to simplicity, this release from complexity. A remarkable creature appears in our lights, a tripod fish, standing perfectly still on the seafloor. Its 3 elongated fin rays, 2 pelvic and 1 caudal, prop it up like a camera tripod, keeping its body elevated above the sediment. It faces into the gentle current, its other fins extended like sensors, waiting to detect the vibrations of small prey drifting past in the water. This fish may stand in this exact position for hours, days even, barely moving, barely breathing, conserving every bit of energy while waiting patiently for food to arrive. It has mastered the art of stillness, of meditation, of being present without being active. Your own body now mirrors this stillness, every muscle at rest, every system slowed to its most efficient rhythm. The abyssal plain is not silent, though our ears cannot hear its sounds. Instruments detect clicks, pops, and low-frequency rumbles, the communications of creatures adapted to this environment, the shifting of sediment, the movement of water masses. But to us, descending deeper into sleep, it is the essence of silence, the quietest place on earth, the most peaceful refuge from the noise of the world above. At 6,000 meters, we observe a small cluster of xenophytophores, single-celled organisms that grow to sizes visible to the naked eye, some reaching 10 centimeters across. These ancient creatures, unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, construct delicate shells from particles they find in the sediment, creating intricate structures that serve as homes and as works of accidental art. Each xenophytophore is a testament to persistence, to the possibility of thriving even in the most extreme conditions. They remind us that life finds a way, that peace can be found anywhere, that home can be built from whatever materials surround us. Your own mind is building its home now in the realm of dreams, constructing rest from the darkness, peace from the silence, renewal from the stillness. A rat-tail fish swims slowly past, its long, tapering body giving it the appearance of a tadpole that never quite grew up. These fish are among the most common in the deep ocean, scavenging along the seafloor for any food they can find. Its large eyes catch our light and reflect it back, 2 points of brightness in the darkness, curious and unafraid. We continue our journey across the abyssal plain at 6,000 meters, where the seafloor stretches in every direction like an underwater desert beneath the stars. But unlike a desert, this plain is not dry but bathed in water that has not seen sunlight for centuries, water that has traveled through deep ocean currents from distant polar regions, carrying with it the chill of ancient ice. Your breathing has become so shallow now, so peaceful, that you barely notice it at all. Each breath is automatic, effortless, like the gentle currents that move across the seafloor, persistent but without force, constant but without strain. You are breathing the way the ocean breathes, with the wisdom of something vast and eternal. A brittle star emerges from the sediment, its 5 long, slender arms moving with surprising grace as it pulls itself across the seafloor. Unlike its sea star cousins in shallow waters, this deep-sea species moves with deliberate slowness, each arm bending and flexing in a hypnotic pattern. The arms seem to move independently, yet work in perfect coordination, a dance choreographed by millions of years of evolution. Watch these arms moving in gentle waves, undulating through the water and across the sediment. Let this motion guide your thoughts, each one flowing into the next without resistance, without interruption. Your mind is becoming fluid like these movements, thoughts dissolving into dreams, consciousness melting into the peaceful darkness of sleep. The abyssal plain appears empty at first glance, but the more we observe, the more life reveals itself. Small amphipods, shrimp-like creatures no larger than a fingernail, hop across the sediment in short bursts. Polychaete worms extend their feathery feeding appendages from burrows in the mud. A sea anemone, impossibly delicate, sways in a current so gentle we cannot even perceive it. This is life reduced to its essence, existence without excess, survival without struggle. Each organism has found its perfect niche, its ideal role in this ecosystem where energy is precious and waste is impossible. They live in balance, in harmony, in a peace born not from the absence of challenge but from perfect adaptation to their world. Peculiar tubes protrude from the seafloor ahead, constructed by worms that live within them, filtering microscopic particles from the water. These tubes, made from mucus and sediment particles, can stand half a meter tall, like tiny chimneys in an underwater city. The worms inside rarely emerge, content to live their entire lives within these protective structures, filtering, feeding, existing in patient stillness. Perhaps this is what we all seek in sleep, our own protective structures, our own spaces of safety where we can rest without vigilance, where we can let down our guard completely. Your bed is your tube, your shelter, your sanctuary from the world. Here you are protected, here you are safe, here you can simply be. A hagfish appears, its eel-like body moving in slow sine waves across the sediment. This ancient creature, unchanged for over 300 million years, is a scavenger of the deep, feeding on the carcasses of larger animals that sink from above. But there's no grotesqueness in its movements, only fluid grace, only the performance of a necessary role in the ocean's grand cycle. The hagfish moves without eyes, navigating by touch and smell, living in a world where sight has become unnecessary. It has no need for visual beauty, for it exists in perpetual darkness. Yet watching it move, we perceive a different kind of beauty, the beauty of perfect function, of adaptation so complete that it transcends appearance. In darkness, all creatures are equal, all are simply alive. Your eyes have long since closed, or perhaps they remain open but see nothing of the waking world. The boundary has dissolved. You are here with us in the abyss, moving across the seafloor, witnessing these ancient wonders. Or perhaps you are already dreaming, and this journey has become the first whisper of your night's adventures. At 6,500 meters, we pass through a region where the sediment appears slightly darker, richer in organic content. This is the trace of a food fall, perhaps from weeks or months ago, when the carcass of a large animal, maybe a whale, maybe a shark, descended from the surface and came to rest here, providing a feast for the scavengers of the deep. Though the main body of the fall is gone now, consumed and recycled, its influence remains. The sediment here is enriched, the bacterial activity increased, the local population of scavengers still slightly elevated. A single event in the deep ocean can echo for months or years, its effects rippling through the community like the memory of abundance, like the trace of something nourishing that once was. Your own day leaves such traces in your mind, experiences that echo, moments that ripple through your thoughts even as you sleep. But here in the deep, these traces are gentle, not disturbing but enriching, not demanding but simply present. Let them settle like sediment, let them become part of the landscape of your dreams without requiring your attention. A sea pen rises from the sediment like an exotic feather, its polyps extended to filter feed from the passing water. This colonial organism is anchored deep in the mud, its root-like structure keeping it stable despite the gentle currents. The polyps along its branches pull slowly, rhythmically, creating tiny currents of their own to bring food particles closer. Watch this pulsing, this gentle rhythm that matches your heartbeat, now slow and steady in deep rest. Everything here moves to the pace of peace, to the tempo of tranquility. There is no urgency, no haste, Only the eternal patience of creatures who measure their lives not in days or years but in a slow turning of geological time. At 7,000 meters, we notice a change in the landscape beneath us. The sediment here is disturbed in patterns, trails crisscrossing the plain like paths in an ancient garden. These are the feeding traces of creatures we may never see, signatures written in mud that tell stories of hunger satisfied, of journeys taken, of lives lived in the deepest darkness. Each trail is a narrative, a record of movement through time and space. But unlike the frantic traces we leave in our own lives, these trails speak of patience, of methodical searching, of movement so slow that hours pass between one mark and the next. There's wisdom in this slowness, a teaching about the value of moving through life at a pace that allows us to truly experience each moment. Your own mind has released its need for speed, for efficiency, for the constant rushing that defines so much of modern existence. Here in this liminal space between waking and sleeping, you move at the pace of the abyss, each thought arriving and departing in its own time, unhurried, unforced, natural as breath. A large holothurian, another variety of sea cucumber, rests on the seafloor ahead. Its body is nearly 1/2 meter long, a substantial presence in this realm of small, energy-conserving creatures. As we watch, it slowly extends its feeding tentacles, elaborate branching structures that it uses to collect sediment and extract whatever nutrition it contains. The tentacles move with extraordinary delicacy, each branch covered in smaller branches, creating fractal patterns that seem to mirror the structure of trees, of lungs, of rivers branching across a landscape. Nature repeats these patterns at every scale, from the cosmic to the microscopic, and here in the deep ocean, they appear again in the feeding apparatus of a creature that has never known sunlight. Let these patterns guide your thoughts into dreams, each thought branching into possibilities, each possibility dividing into scenarios, creating the rich, complex landscape of your sleeping mind. There is no need to control this process, no need to direct it. Like the sea cucumber's tentacles, your mind knows how to gather what it needs from the darkness. Even here, just meters above the ocean floor, bioluminescence continues. Small crustaceans disturbed by our passage release clouds of luminescent chemicals, creating brief bursts of blue-green light that fade as quickly as they appeared. These flashes serve as warnings, as distractions, as attempts to startle predators, but to us they are simply beautiful, momentary stars born and dying in the span of seconds. Each flash is like a thought in your drowsy mind, appearing briefly, illuminating nothing in particular, then fading back into the comfortable darkness. You need not hold on to these thoughts, need not examine them or understand them. Let them flash and fade, each one a tiny celebration of existence that requires nothing from you. Something extraordinary drifts into our lights, a Dumbo octopus, one of the deepest dwelling octopuses known to science. Its ear-like fins, which give it its common name, flap gently like wings, propelling it through the water with a grace that seems impossible. The octopus moves as if flying through liquid space, its arms trailing behind like ribbons, its body pulsing with subtle changes in color and texture. This creature, living at depths where most octopuses cannot survive, has adapted to life in the abyss with extraordinary elegance. It needs no hard shell, no armor, no defensive weapons. Its soft body and gentle movements are perfectly suited to this environment where aggression is rare and energy conservation is paramount. It simply exists, floating, hunting tiny prey, living its life in peaceful obscurity. Watch this octopus drift, its movements so smooth they seem choreographed. There is no wasted motion, no unnecessary effort. Every flap of its fins serves a purpose, every adjustment of its arms maintains perfect balance. This is efficiency born not from rush but from millions of years of refinement, movement reduced to its purest, most essential form. Your own body has achieved this same efficiency in rest. Your heart beats only as fast as necessary, your breathing uses only the energy required, your metabolism has slowed to its nighttime rhythm. You are a perfectly balanced system, adjusted for sleep, calibrated for dreams, optimized for restoration and renewal. The Dumbo octopus drifts beyond our lights and disappears into the darkness, leaving us once again alone with the endless plain. But this aloneness is not loneliness. In the deep ocean, solitude is simply the natural state, the space between rare encounters, the time for rest and contemplation. At 7,500 meters, we are approaching the deepest regions accessible to most abyssal creatures. Below this depth, the ocean floor drops away into trenches, into hadal zones where pressure becomes so extreme that only the most specialized organisms can survive. But here, on the edge of these depths, life still flourishes in its quiet, patient way. The terrain is changing now, becoming less uniform. Small hills rise a meter or two from the surrounding plain, created by geological processes we can only guess at. In the valleys between these hills, sediment collects more thickly, creating softer areas where burrowing organisms thrive. Each microenvironment hosts its own community, its own balance of life. This diversity and apparent monotony is a lesson the deep ocean teaches well. What seems uniform and unchanging at first glance reveals endless variation upon closer inspection. Your own dreams will be like this tonight, familiar in their essence but unique in their details, each one a slight variation on themes your mind has explored before, yet each one somehow new. A gulper eel appears in the distance, its body impossibly elongated, its mouth capable of opening to enormous proportions despite the small size of its body. This creature is adapted to take advantage of any food source, no matter how large, that it might encounter in this realm where meals are rare and unpredictable. Yet it moves without desperation, without frantic searching, just steady, patient swimming through the darkness. The gulper eel reminds us that sometimes we must open ourselves to possibilities we hadn't considered, that we must be prepared to accept nourishment from unexpected sources. In dreams, this is always true. The mind opens wide to accept images, symbols, scenarios that waking consciousness might reject, and in this openness finds the nourishment it needs. At 8,000 meters, our journey takes us towards something extraordinary, a region where the ocean floor is not cold and lifeless but warm, chemically rich, and teeming with life that exists independent of the sun. We are approaching a hydrothermal vent field, one of the most remarkable ecosystems on Earth, where life draws its energy not from photosynthesis but from the heat and chemicals emerging from deep within the planet itself. Your body generates its own warmth as you sleep, maintaining the perfect temperature for rest and cellular repair. Like the hydrothermal vents we are approaching, you are a source of energy, of life, of constant renewal. Even in sleep, especially in sleep, the work of restoration continues, powered by the deep reserves within you. The water ahead appears different, shimmering slightly as superheated fluids from beneath the seafloor mix with the near-freezing ocean water. These hydrothermal fluids can reach temperatures of 400 degrees Celsius as they emerge from the Earth's crust, hot enough to melt lead, yet within meters of the vents, the water cools to ambient temperature. This meeting of extremes creates gradients, zones where different temperatures and chemical compositions overlap, and in these gradient zones, life explodes into abundance. Bacteria that can process chemicals like hydrogen sulfide and methane form the base of a food web that includes creatures found nowhere else on Earth. A towering structure emerges from the darkness ahead, a black smoker chimney rising perhaps 20 meters from the seafloor. From its peak, dark fluids billow into the water like smoke from an industrial chimney, though this smoke is actually superheated water laden with minerals, sulfides, and metals dissolved from the rocks deep below. The chimney itself is built from these minerals, precipitating out of the hot water as it meets the cold ocean, gradually constructing this tower over years and decades. It is a geological process we can observe in real time, the Earth building itself, creating structure from fluid, making solid what was dissolved. The plumes rising from the smoker are hypnotic, their movements unpredictable yet somehow orderly, turbulent yet contained. They rise and spread, creating patterns that never quite repeat but always resemble themselves. Watching these plumes, your mind can release its need for predictability, can accept the beauty of chaos organized by natural law. Around the base of the black smoker, life clusters in astonishing density. Tube worms, their white tubes growing in bundles like organ pipes, extend their bright red plumes into the water to capture the bacteria-rich fluids. These worms, some growing 2 meters long, have no mouth, no digestive system in the conventional sense. They survive through a symbiotic relationship with bacteria living inside their bodies. The tube worm's red plumes wave gently in the currents, moving in synchrony like a field of poppies in a breeze. This red comes from hemoglobin, similar to the hemoglobin in your own blood, adapted to capture hydrogen sulfide instead of oxygen. Life has found a way to breathe poison, to draw sustenance from what would kill most organisms, demonstrating the extraordinary adaptability of living systems. Let this adaptability inspire your dreams tonight. Whatever challenges your day presented, your mind is adaptable, capable of processing, of finding meaning, of extracting nourishment even from difficult experiences. Like the tube worms, you can transform what seems toxic into what sustains you. Pale white crabs, eyeless but perfectly adapted to their environment, crawl among the tube worms. These vent crabs are scavengers and predators, feeding on bacterial mats and occasionally on other vent organisms. Their white coloration results from the absence of pigments unnecessary in a world without light. They navigate by sensing chemicals and vibrations, creating a mental map of their territory through senses we can barely imagine. The crabs move with surprising speed for deep-sea creatures, their legs picking carefully across the rocky substrate around the vent. Energy is abundant here compared to the abyssal plane we crossed earlier, and this abundance permits activity, permits populations dense enough that we can see dozens of individuals in a single glance. As we rise slightly to observe the entire vent field, we see multiple chimneys, some actively smoking, others dormant. Their activity ceased as the hydrothermal circulation beneath them shifted to new locations. This is a landscape in constant transformation, chimneys growing, collapsing, new vents opening as old ones seal themselves. Between the chimneys, the seafloor is covered in white and yellow bacterial mats, visible carpets of microorganisms that form the foundation of this ecosystem. These bacteria are chemosynthetic, using chemical energy instead of light energy to produce organic compounds. They are primary producers in a world where photosynthesis is impossible, proof that life needs only energy and materials, not necessarily sunlight. The shimmering water creates visual effects that seem almost dreamlike, distortions and waverings that make it difficult to judge distance and scale. This is appropriate, for we have entered a realm that operates by different rules, where the normal logic of the ocean is suspended, where abundance exists in the deep, where warmth emerges from cold darkness. Your dreams tonight may have this same quality of alternative logic, where the rules that govern waking life bend and shift, where impossible things become possible, where you can breathe underwater, fly without wings, visit places that exist nowhere but in imagination. This is not confusion but liberation, the mind's freedom to explore beyond constraints. A vent fish, species unique to these ecosystems, swims lazily through the warm water near a chimney. Like the crabs, it is pale, nearly translucent, its eyes reduced to non-functioning remnants. It feeds on small crustaceans and worms, navigating by lateral line sensors that detect water movements and pressure changes. In this realm of darkness and heat, vision is a luxury, but other senses are essential. The fish seems to enjoy the warm water, lingering in a zone where temperatures are tolerable but elevated, perhaps the closest thing to basking that any deep-sea creature experiences. There is something touching about this, about a creature that lives in perpetual cold seeking out these rare pockets of warmth, finding comfort in the Earth's heat rising through the ocean floor. From our current vantage point, the entire vent field spreads before us like an underwater city, chimneys rising like towers, life clustering around each source of energy, the whole system humming with biological activity sustained by geological processes. This is the Earth itself supporting life, the planet's interior heat and chemistry becoming food, becoming growth, becoming the continuation of existence. As we drift toward the edges of the vent field, the density of life gradually decreases, the temperatures cool, and we enter a transitional zone where vent organisms meet those of the surrounding abyssal plane. This is a boundary region, an ecotone where two worlds overlap, where cold-adapted and heat-adapted creatures exist side by side in an uneasy but functional coexistence. Boundaries are often the most interesting places, where difference meets similarity, where separation creates connection. Your own mind exists in such a boundary now, between consciousness and unconsciousness, between the waking world and the dream realm. In this threshold space, both realities are present, both are valid, both inform your experience. A sea cucumber from the surrounding plain has wandered into the vent field, attracted perhaps by the abundance of bacterial mats it can consume. It moves slowly across the rocky substrate, its feeding tentacles extended, harvesting the rich organic material. Nearby, a vent crab watches with eyeless attention, its antennae twitching, assessing whether this visitor represents threat, food, or simply another presence to be acknowledged and ignored. There is no conflict here, just two creatures pursuing their survival strategies in the same space, each following its instincts, each adapted to slightly different conditions but capable of occupying the same ground. Your own thoughts and dreams can coexist this way, disparate elements sharing the same mental space without competing, without demanding resolution. We pass several dormant chimneys now, their once active vents sealed, their mineral structures gradually being colonized by organisms from the surrounding seafloor. Anemones have attached to the rocky surfaces, their tentacles extended into the current. Sponges grow in patches, filtering bacteria from the water. These structures, built by geological processes, now serve as habitat, as shelter, as surfaces in a realm where hard substrate is precious. Even in cessation, there is purpose. Even when the heat stops flowing, when the chemicals stop emerging, the structures remain and life finds new uses for them. This is the way of nature. Nothing is truly wasted, everything eventually serves some function, even if different from its original purpose. The rocky terrain of the vent field gives way once more to sediment-covered plain, and the abundance of life decreases to the sparse populations we observed earlier. But having witnessed the vents, we see this plain differently now. We understand that beneath this apparently uniform seafloor, processes continue, chemistry unfolds, heat flows, and at any moment, at any location, a new vent could open, transforming desert into oasis. Your own potential for renewal is like this, always present even when dormant, always ready to emerge when conditions align. Sleep is your hydrothermal vent, your source of restoration and energy, the process by which you transform the chemistry of exhaustion into the vitality of morning. Something massive appears in our lights ahead, the skeleton of a whale, its bones picked nearly clean but still substantial, still providing structure and sustenance to a thriving community. This is a whale fall, one of the most important events in the deep ocean, a bonanza of energy that can sustain life for decades. When a whale dies and sinks to the seafloor, it brings with it tons of organic material, fats, proteins, nutrients that are extraordinarily rare in the abyss. The carcass goes through stages of colonization, first the mobile scavengers arriving to feed on the soft tissue, then specialists that bore into the bones, and finally bacteria that can digest the lipids stored in the bone matrix. The bones are covered with ostax worms, also called zombie worms, their red plumes extending from holes they have bored into the skeleton. These worms have no mouth or gut but digest bone oil through symbiotic bacteria in their root-like structures. They are among the strangest creatures in the ocean, yet they perform an essential function, recycling the nutrients locked in whale bones back into the ecosystem. Observing this whale fall, we witness the ultimate act of giving. This whale, swimming the ocean for decades, accumulating energy, growing, living, has in death become a gift to thousands of organisms that will feed on it for years to come. Nothing is lost, everything is transformed, the cycle continues unbroken. Bone-eating snails crawl across the ribs, rasping away at the surface. Small fish hide among the bones, using them as shelter. Crabs patrol the skeleton, searching for any remaining scraps. The whale fall has created an island of abundance in a desert of scarcity, a refuge, a community, a temporary but significant alteration to the seafloor. This whale fall might sustain life for 50 years or more, going through distinct ecological stages as different communities succeed each other, each specializing in extracting different resources. It is an ecosystem within an ecosystem, a microworld with its own succession, its own timeline, its own slow transformation from abundance to eventual integration with the surrounding plane. From a distance, we can see the whale fall as a whole, the bones arranged in the approximate shape the whale held in life, though collapsed and scattered by the process of decomposition and the feeding of scavengers. There is something poignant about this shape, this echo of what was once a living, breathing creature swimming through sunlit waters. But there is no sadness in the deep ocean, only continuation. This whale's death created life for countless others. Its body, built from krill and fish consumed over decades, returns now to the ecosystem in another form, feeding bacteria and worms and crabs and fish in a different way but with equal significance. As we leave the whale fall behind, moving back into the open water above the abyssal plain, we carry with us its lesson about transformation, about giving, about the way endings become beginnings. Your day is ended, and in that ending, your sleep begins, and in that sleep, restoration happens, and in that restoration, tomorrow is being prepared. At 8,500 meters, we pause again to simply float, to simply exist in this space between bottom and surface, this vast middle realm of the ocean where pressure and darkness define existence but do not limit it. Water surrounds us completely, supporting us, holding us, requiring nothing from us but acceptance. Your bed surrounds you the same way, supporting every part of your body, requiring nothing from you but surrender. Let yourself be held as completely as we are held by this water. Let go of the need to support yourself, to maintain yourself, to be anything other than a body at rest, a mind in transition, a consciousness preparing for dreams. A salp chain drifts past, these transparent, gelatinous creatures linked together in a colonial formation that can stretch for meters. They pulse in unison, their individual contractions coordinated to move the entire chain through the water. Each salp is an individual, yet they function as one organism, sharing resources, sharing effort, sharing existence. Our journey now takes us toward a change in the terrain, where the flat abyssal plain gives way to rising features, underwater mountains that reach up from the seafloor toward the distant surface. These are seamounts, ancient volcanoes that once erupted above the ocean's surface but now stand submerged, their peaks still thousands of meters below where light penetrates. The seafloor is not flat, not uniform, but as varied as any terrestrial landscape, with mountains and valleys, ridges and trenches, plains and canyons. We have been crossing a vast plain, but now we approach topology, geography, the sculptural features that make each region of the ocean floor unique. As the seafloor slopes upward beneath us, we notice immediately that life becomes more abundant. The seamount disrupts deep ocean currents, forcing water up and over its slopes, and this upward movement concentrates nutrients, brings food particles together, creates zones of enhanced biological activity. Where the plain was sparsely populated, the seamount is comparatively rich. Your own mind has regions like this, areas where thoughts and memories concentrate, where mental activity intensifies. As you drift through sleep, you may find yourself drawn to these regions, these peaks of significance in the landscape of your consciousness, where dreams become vivid, where the narrative of sleep takes on structure and meaning. Deep-sea corals cling to the rocky slopes, their branching structures extending into the current like skeletal trees. Unlike their shallow water cousins that depend on symbiotic algae and sunlight, these corals feed by filtering plankton and organic particles from the water. They grow incredibly slowly, perhaps a millimeter per year, meaning some of these colonies could be thousands of years old. Imagine the patience of such growth, the slow accumulation of calcium carbonate, year after year, decade after decade, century after century, building structures that will outlast us by countless generations. These corals were here before human civilization began, and will likely be here long after our era has passed into history. The coral branches provide structure, and where there is structure, there is habitat. Small brittle stars wrap their arms around the coral, filtering food from the passing current. Tiny crustaceans shelter among the branches, finding protection from predators. Even at these depths, the principle holds true: complexity begets diversity, structure creates opportunity, foundations enable life. Your own sleep architecture is like this, the structure of sleep stages and cycles providing the framework for dreams, for memory consolidation, for cellular repair. Without this structure, sleep would be formless, chaotic. But with it, sleep becomes organized, purposeful, restorative. A magnificent octocoral, also called a gorgonian, sways on the seamount slope, its fan-like structure positioned perpendicular to the current to maximize its filtering efficiency. The coral is deep red, a color that appears gray or black at these depths where red wavelengths cannot penetrate, but our lights reveal its true hue, vibrant and alive. The Gorgonian moves with the current, bending and returning, a slow dance that has continued for centuries. There is something meditative about this movement, this constant response to external forces that never becomes resistance, never becomes struggle, only continuous adaptation, continuous flexibility. Fish are more common here than on the abyssal plain, small species forming loose schools near the seamount slopes. They hover in the current, facing into the flow, maintaining their position with minimal effort, waiting for food particles to drift past. These fish are specialists of the seamount environment, adapted to take advantage of the enhanced food availability these underwater mountains provide. The fish move in subtle coordination, each individual aware of its neighbors, adjusting its position to maintain optimal spacing. They form a collective without a leader, a group intelligence that emerges from simple individual behaviors. Your own thoughts can organize this way in dreams, connecting without conscious direction, forming patterns and narratives that surprise you with their coherence. As we rise with the seamount, ascending from 8,500 meters toward 8,000, then 7,500, the communities of organisms change. Species that thrive in the deepest regions give way to those adapted to slightly less extreme pressures. The transition is gradual, zones blending into each other, but the overall trend is toward increasing diversity, increasing abundance. This is the way of emergence from deep rest, gradual, gentle, moving through zones of consciousness without abrupt transitions. Though you sleep deeply now, eventually your mind will begin its own ascent, rising through lighter stages of sleep toward waking, but that time is still distant, still many cycles away. A sea spider, its body tiny but its legs spanning half a meter, crawls delicately across the rocky substrate. These strange arthropods are not true spiders but belong to their own ancient lineage. Their legs are so long and thin that they seem impossibly fragile, yet they function perfectly in this environment, allowing the creature to reach into crevices, to step over obstacles, to navigate complex terrain. The sea spider moves with deliberate precision, each leg placement considered, each movement calculated. There is no hurry, no rush. It has existed in forms similar to this for hundreds of millions of years, and it moves with the confidence of a design proven across geological time. The seamount's peak rises ahead of us, a summit that reaches to perhaps 6,000 meters depth, still far below the surface but elevated significantly above the surrounding plain. This peak may once have been an island, a volcanic cone that broke the ocean's surface millions of years ago before tectonic movement and erosion brought it to its current submerged position. There is something majestic about these underwater mountains, these features invisible to anyone on the surface yet as impressive as any terrestrial peak. They remind us that grandeur exists in hidden places, that magnificence does not require an audience, that beauty persists even when no eyes witness it. At the summit, currents are strongest, sweeping over the peak and creating turbulence that concentrates nutrients and plankton. Here, life reaches its maximum abundance for this depth, with corals, sponges, anemones, and fish all taking advantage of the enhanced conditions. This is a deep-sea oasis, a peak of biological activity in the ocean's vertical landscape. But even here, even in relative abundance, life proceeds slowly, calmly, without the frenetic energy of shallow reefs or surface waters. The cold temperature and high pressure impose their own pace, their own rhythm, and all life here has adapted to this tempo, this slow unfolding of existence. From the seamount's summit, we can perceive the vast plain we crossed, stretching away in all directions, disappearing into darkness beyond our light's reach. We have traveled far, descended deep, witnessed wonders that most humans will never see. Yet we have barely begun to explore the ocean's secrets. We begin our descent down the far side of the seamount, leaving its peak and the life that clusters there, moving once more into deeper waters. But our journey does not return us to the abyssal plain. Instead, we navigate towards something that speaks to human imagination in profound ways, the realm of shipwrecks, where human history intersects with the timeless ocean. Your breathing has settled into its deepest rhythm now, the slow cadence of profound sleep where the body performs its most essential repairs, where growth hormones flow, where memories consolidate into long-term storage. This is the foundation of rest, the bedrock of restoration, the depth from which you will eventually rise renewed. A structure appears in our lights, angular and artificial, utterly distinct from the organic forms we have witnessed. It is a ship, or what remains of one, resting on the seafloor at 7,000 meters, far deeper than most wrecks are found. This vessel has been here for decades, perhaps longer, gradually transforming from a human artifact into part of the ocean ecosystem. Shipwrecks are time capsules, moments frozen in catastrophe, vessels that were once vibrant with human activity now silent and still. Yet they are not dead places but living museums, habitats for organisms that colonize every available surface, turning steel and wood into substrate for growth, for attachment, for shelter. The ship's hull is covered in rust and marine growth, layers of sediment accumulated in protected corners, anemones clustered on vertical surfaces, corals beginning their centuries-long colonization. The vessel that took years to build and moments to sink now provides structure for life that will persist for generations, perhaps centuries, until the metal itself dissolves back into the ocean. There is poetry in this transformation, this conversion of human purpose into natural habitat. The ship no longer serves its original function, can never again carry cargo or passengers, yet it serves now in a different way, creating complexity in a realm of uniformity, providing refuge in a world of openness. We glide along what was once the deck, now tilted at an angle, its railings draped with soft corals, its machinery encrusted with organisms. Hatches stand open, leading into dark holds where fish now shelter, where octopuses make temporary homes, where the boundaries between inside and outside have blurred as the ocean slowly reclaims the vessel. Every shipwreck holds stories we will never fully know, the circumstances of its sinking, the fate of those aboard, the cargo it carried, the destinations it never reached. These stories have dissolved into the sea as surely as the ship itself is dissolving, becoming mystery, becoming legend, becoming part of the ocean's vast collection of human narratives ended by water. Peering into the holds, we see schools of fish using the enclosed space as a shelter, swimming in coordinated patterns through what were once storage areas. They have no knowledge of the ship's history, no concept of its human origins. To them, this is simply structure, simply habitat, simply part of the seafloor as natural as any rock formation. This is how time works in the ocean, erasing human meaning, converting it to ecological function, transforming purpose into pattern. What was tragedy becomes habitat, what was lost becomes opportunity, what was ending becomes beginning for countless organisms colonizing these surfaces. The bridge rises before us, its windows long since shattered by pressure or decay, its instruments corroded into unrecognizable lumps of rust. This was the command center, where decisions were made, where navigation was plotted, where the ship's fate was ultimately sealed by whatever catastrophe brought it here. Now it is empty of human presence but full of marine life. An octopus has made a den in what might have been the captain's quarters, its arms visible at the entrance, its eyes watching us with intelligent curiosity. This creature has no concept of captains or command, yet it occupies the space with appropriate dignity, a new master of this domain, ruling over schools of small fish and invertebrates that drift through these chambers. Circling the wreck, we appreciate its scale, the ambition of its construction, the confidence of its design that proved insufficient against the ocean's power. Ships are humanity's attempt to move across the sea's surface, to traverse this realm without truly entering it, maintaining a boundary between air and water, between human space and oceanic space. But when that boundary fails, when ships sink, they become permanent residents of the deep, no longer visitors but inhabitants, transformed by their descent from symbols of human mastery into evidence of human vulnerability. The ocean accepts them all eventually, patient and impartial, converting engineering into ecology. Scattered around the main hull, we find smaller artifacts, pieces that broke away during the sinking or have fallen from the structure as decay progresses. A metal box, its contents long since consumed by corrosion. A porthole, still retaining fragments of thick glass. These fragments tell partial stories, hint at purposes, but their meanings are as submerged as the objects themselves. Your own memories are like this, fragments surfacing in dreams, pieces of experiences that may seem disconnected but form patterns when viewed together. Some memories are clear, their significance obvious. Others are corroded, their details lost, but their emotional resonance remains, like these artifacts that no longer serve their purpose but still bear witness to their history. One section of the hull has become a canvas for bioluminescent organisms, hydroids and small creatures that glow with soft blue-green light when disturbed. As fish swim past, they trigger these flashes, creating a cascade of light that travels across the surface like a wave. The ship, once dark metal, has become luminous, transformed by life into something more beautiful than it was when new. This is the ocean's gift, this transformation, this beautification through decay and colonization. What humans build for utility, The ocean renovates for beauty, covering straight lines with organic curves, replacing smooth surfaces with textured growth, turning the mechanical into the living. As we prepare to leave this wreck behind, we understand that it is one of thousands scattered across the ocean floor, each one a moment in maritime history, each one now serving new purposes. Some are ancient wooden vessels from centuries past, their timbers nearly consumed. Others are modern steel ships, their decay slower but equally inevitable. The ocean floor is a museum without curators, a gallery without visitors, a repository of human ambition and tragedy that receives no maintenance yet preserves these vessels in its own way, transforming them gradually, patiently, completely. In this transformation, there is no malice, only the inexorable process of change that governs all things. Another wreck appears in the distance, and beyond it, perhaps another. In some regions, multiple ships rest within sight of each other, victims of the same storm, the same navigational error, the same wartime encounter. These clusters become artificial reefs, concentrations of habitat in an otherwise sparse environment. This next wreck is far older, a wooden sailing vessel whose timbers have been worn smooth by decades or centuries of slow decay in the patient work of wood-boring organisms. The shape is barely recognizable now, more suggestion than structure, ribs and planks collapsed into a configuration that speaks more of surrender than of the proud vessel this once was. Wood does not last as long as steel in these depths, yet something of the ship's essence remains, its skeleton visible like the bones of the whale we encountered earlier. Both represent vessels that once moved through the ocean, one biological and one mechanical, both eventually claimed by the depths, both serving now as habitat and history. The wood is soft now, penetrated by countless borings of shipworms and other organisms that slowly digest cellulose. Yet it retains enough structure to provide attachment points for anemones, for small sponges, for hydroids that wave their delicate polyps in the gentle current. Life consumes the wreck and simultaneously celebrates it, taking what was built and remaking it into ecosystem. Your body is doing similar work now as you sleep, breaking down what is no longer needed, rebuilding what requires repair, transforming the biochemistry of waking activity into the restored state of morning readiness. You are being unmade and remade simultaneously, just as the ship is being dissolved and colonized in the same eternal moment. Metal objects persist longer, and we find a cannon, its iron still intact despite heavy incrustation. This weapon, designed to project force across water, now projects only history, only the memory of conflicts that have long since resolved. The cannon points at nothing, threatens nothing, protects nothing. It simply exists, a monument to purposes that dissolved with the ship that carried it. There is peace in this obsolescence, in the way objects designed for violence become neutral with time, their threat erased by decay, their power absorbed by the patient ocean. All aggression eventually softens, all conflict eventually settles, all storms eventually calm. The ocean teaches patience to everything it touches. The wreck site extends across a wide area, pieces of the ship scattered by the impact of sinking, by subsequent storms, by the slow work of decay that separates what was joined. We swim through this field of fragments, each piece a word in a story we can no longer fully read, each artifact a clue to circumstances we can only imagine. Pottery shards rest in the sediment, their glaze is still faintly visible. Glass bottles, their contents long since dissolved, lie tilted at various angles. These were cargo or provisions, objects of value or necessity when the ship sailed, now reduced to curious shapes that fish investigate and dismiss, finding nothing of interest in human artifacts. A large school of deep-sea fish moves through the wreck site like a living cloud, hundreds of individuals coordinated in their movement, flowing around obstacles, reforming after disturbance. They use the wreck as a landmark, a reference point in their navigation, one of the few permanent features in a world where most navigation relies on sensing currents, chemicals, and magnetic fields. Watch these fish move together, each one an individual yet part of something larger, something collective. Your own cells work this way, each one independent yet coordinated, each following its own program yet contributing to your wholeness. You are a school of cells, swimming through time, maintaining formation through the miracle of biological organization. We leave the ancient wreck behind, its slow dissolution continuing whether witnessed or not, its transformation from ship to reef progressing at the ocean's pace. In another century, it may be entirely consumed, entirely integrated into the seafloor, indistinguishable from natural formations. Or some remnant may persist for millennia, the most resistant materials outlasting empires. The darkness surrounds us again, and in this darkness, all wrecks, all seamounts, all features of the ocean floor become equal, differentiated only when we bring light to them. This is the natural state of the deep ocean, not light but darkness, not revelation but mystery, not knowledge but wonder. We extinguish our artificial lights for a moment, and the darkness becomes absolute. Then, slowly, our eyes adjust, or rather our awareness shifts, and we begin to perceive the bioluminescence all around us. Tiny flashes, brief glows, streaks of light created by organisms we cannot otherwise see. The darkness is not empty but full of hidden lights, secret signals, conversations and luminescence. This is what dreams are like, visible only when we stop trying to see, perceptible only when we stop trying to perceive. Dreams arise in the darkness of sleep, illuminated by their own internal light, requiring no external source. You are dreaming now, or about to dream, and your dreams will light themselves, creating their own reality from the darkness of unconsciousness. We begin now the long, slow ascent that will eventually return us toward the surface, though we have hours yet before we leave these depths entirely. The journey upward is as important as the descent, each zone revealing different wonders, each depth hosting different communities, the ocean stratified by pressure, temperature, and light into distinct realms. But this ascent is far in the future of our journey. For now, we remain deep, remain in darkness, remain surrounded by the pressure and cold of the abyss. We float here, suspended, weightless, supported by water that has been here for centuries, that has circulated through the ocean's great currents, connecting pole to equator, surface to trench. Something enormous and gelatinous drifts past, its body mostly transparent, visible only by the way it refracts what little light exists. It could be a giant larvation, could be a salp colony, could be some creature not yet fully described by science. It moves with the current, passive yet purposeful, its body a miracle of efficiency, capturing food particles from the water with structures so delicate they seem impossible. These gelatinous creatures dominate the biomass of the deep ocean, far more abundant than fish, far more successful in evolutionary terms. They are ancient designs, perfected hundreds of millions of years ago, requiring so little energy to maintain that they thrive where other organisms struggle. They are the minimalists of the ocean, achieving life with the least possible structure. As the gelatinous giant fades from view, we are reminded that most of what exists in the deep ocean remains unknown, unnamed, unstudied. For every species science has catalogued, dozens or hundreds remain undiscovered. The ocean keeps its secrets not from malice but from sheer vastness, from the impossibility of exploring every cubic meter of water, every square meter of seafloor. This unknowing is not a failure but a gift, a reminder that mystery still exists, that discovery remains possible, that wonder has not been exhausted by human investigation. The deep ocean remains Earth's final frontier, its largest wilderness, its most persistent mystery. And in this mystery, there is profound peace. We rise now through the water column with exquisite slowness, ascending so gradually that the change is barely perceptible, moving from the deepest zones towards slightly shallower depths. The pressure eases by tiny increments, the temperature warms by fractions of a degree, yet we remain in the realm of darkness, in the embrace of the deep. Your sleep has carried you through cycles now, through valleys and peaks of different sleep stages, each one serving its purpose, each one contributing to restoration. You are not aware of these transitions, just as we are barely aware of our ascent. Change happens whether we notice it or not. Progress occurs in darkness as surely as in light. The frequency of bioluminescence increases slightly as we rise, more creatures producing light, more flashes in the darkness. We are still in the midnight zone, still in perpetual night, but approaching the transition toward the twilight zone, that boundary region where the absolute darkness begins to give way to the faintest suggestion of light from far above. Each flash of bioluminescence is a moment of communication, of self-expression, of existence making itself known. Your own neural activity during sleep creates similar flashes, firing patterns that consolidate memories, that solve problems, that create the narrative structure of dreams. You are alive in sleep, active in rest, working while seeming not to work. A Medusa jellyfish drifts upward with us, its bell pulsing rhythmically, its tentacles streaming below like silken threads. This creature spends its life ascending and descending through the water column, following daily migrations that track the movement of its prey. It lives in perpetual motion, perpetual transition, never truly arriving but always journeying. There is contentment in this constant movement, in this acceptance of life as journey rather than destination. The jellyfish does not strive to reach anywhere, does not measure progress, does not compare its position to others. It simply exists in motion, pulses its bell, extends its tentacles, absorbs what nourishment comes its way. At 6,000 meters now, still deep but ascending steadily, the darkness begins to show texture, layers, gradations that were not perceptible in the absolute black of the abyss. This is not yet light, not even the beginning of light, but perhaps the absence of the deepest darkness, the first suggestion that somewhere, impossibly far above, the sun still shines. Your own consciousness is beginning this same transition, the deepest part of your sleep cycle completing, the gradual movement toward lighter sleep stages beginning. But dawn is still hours away, morning still distant. You remain in the night, in the darkness, in the peaceful suspension of sleep. A cone jelly appears, its transparent body nearly invisible except for the rainbow iridescence that plays along its 8 rows of cilia. These are not bioluminescent lights but refractions, the beating cilia splitting whatever minimal light exists into its component colors. Even in near total darkness, the cone jelly creates beauty, displays color, moves through the water like a living prism. This creature needs no audience for its beauty, receives no benefit from the colors it displays in darkness where no eyes can perceive them. Yet it is beautiful regardless, proving that beauty exists independent of observation, that magnificence persists whether witnessed or not. You, sleeping, are beautiful in your rest, peaceful in your vulnerability, magnificent in your unconsciousness. The water around us holds a quality now that is not quite darkness but not yet illumination, a deep, profound blue that suggests the possibility of light without delivering it. This is the color of deep water, of thickness, of density, of distance from the surface. It is the color of separation from the world of air and sunlight. But this separation is not exile, not punishment, not loss. It is simply difference, simply the existence of another realm, another way of being. The deep ocean does not miss the surface any more than the night misses the day. Each is complete in itself, each is necessary, each provides what the other cannot. In the distance, we perceive the silhouette of another seamount, another rise in the ocean floor, but we do not approach it. We have witnessed enough wonders for one journey, encountered enough mysteries, absorbed enough of the deep ocean's lessons. Now we simply rise, slowly, peacefully, allowing the ascent to unfold at its own pace. You have journeyed far tonight, deeper than you knew, into realms of rest and restoration more profound than waking consciousness can imagine. You have descended into the abyss of sleep, encountered the strange and beautiful creatures that inhabit the unconscious mind, witnessed the bioluminescence of dreams. The ocean continues around us, vast and patient, holding us in its embrace as it has held countless creatures, countless explorers, countless dreamers. It asks nothing of us, expects nothing from us, simply supports us with its density, its buoyancy, its fundamental nature. Your bed continues to support you the same way, asking nothing, expecting nothing, simply providing the foundation for your rest. The night continues around you, quiet and dark, holding space for your sleep, protecting your peace, allowing time for restoration. The deep ocean has shared its secrets with us tonight, revealed its wonders, offered its peace. We have witnessed bioluminescent creatures creating light in darkness, hydrothermal vents supporting life through chemistry rather than photosynthesis, shipwrecks transformed from tragedy into habitat, seamounts rising like mountains in the abyss. But more than sights, we have absorbed lessons, the value of patience in a realm where everything moves slowly, the beauty of adaptation to extreme conditions, the peace that comes from accepting darkness rather than fighting it, the continuity of cycles where endings become beginnings. These lessons will settle into your consciousness like marine snow settling to the seafloor, slowly, gently, becoming part of the substrate of your understanding. You need not remember the specifics when you wake, need not recall each creature or feature. The essence will remain, the peace will persist. Sleep now, deeply, peacefully, completely. Let the darkness hold you. Let the pressure of blankets comfort you like the pressure of deep water. Let your breathing match the rhythm of deep ocean currents, slow and steady and eternal. The ocean continues its ancient rhythms, and so do you, breathing, sleeping, dreaming, being. This is enough. This is everything. This is peace. Rest well in the deep,